Hello fellow bike people, Brianna's back on the channel. She's everyone's favorite, right? This is awesome, I love it when she's on the channel. Yeah, so this is the bike she's been riding all season. It's a Norco Scene 2. Awesome bike, I love this thing. We're going to do a full-on review for it, let you know if this is the kind of bike you want to buy. First thing, before we get into her opinions on this, I just want to say, from a bike mechanic's point of view, this bike is super solid. Norco did an amazing job designing this and equipping it, putting just the right parts on it. There's only two things that I think you should watch out for. The first is the saddle itself. It's a pretty wide saddle, and I've noticed a little bit on this bike, but also on a few other customers' bikes, the saddle itself, the rails start to bend a little bit at the back, so you might have to replace the saddle after a season or two of riding. And the other thing is the dropout, the part that holds the rear derailleur onto the frame. It's a breakaway part anyway, so all the companies use a fairly soft material for these, but I think Norco might use a slightly softer material than some of the others, because I've noticed the derailleur is a little more susceptible to getting banged out of line, but that just means you have to pull it straight and check it straight, or maybe a touch more often than with some other models, but that's not a huge deal. And if it does end up being a problem, you can get a really solid dropout from companies like Wheels Manufacturing, so barely worth worrying about. So, Brianna, want to tell them like what your experience so far is with cycling and you know, why you got this bike and all that?
Okay, so we got this bike right in the beginning of this year, so I've had it for a full riding season. We were super lucky to get it before the pandemic started affecting things and we got into lockdown, which was awesome. We were so lucky. This is my second season of riding. Last season I was in a super basic giant mountain bike, so this is my first brand new bike as an adult. We've been using this a lot for picnics, urban cycling, photography missions, things like that.
So, I guess the first thing we want to talk about is the frame, the kind of, you know, step-through design and the nice kind of beefy head tube. In my opinion, this bike is really what cruiser bikes should have been for a long time. I've noticed a lot of companies are doing this style of modern cruiser now. Another one that's really popular is the Specialized Roll, but I really like this one. Like the Norco Scene, I think they nailed the design. So in terms of like body position and riding, what are your thoughts on that?
It is so comfortable. It makes me think of a traditional cruiser bike, one of those, you know, going along the beach and just enjoying life on a cruiser bike. I think of old vintage bikes.
Yes!
Right?
Yes, it's got that aesthetic.
Exactly, but it's modern. It's very urban. This feels like the representation of my soul. I like that vintage aesthetic, but this is very modern. It's very comfortable, puts me in that comfortable position, but I can take those curbs, I can, go long distance, and I'm still gonna be super, super comfortable, while still looking great.
A few things to touch on. They did a great design with the internal routing here. Like the ports are actually pretty solid. I noticed a lot of companies will either route it just straight in or they'll use these like rubberized gaskets that I find fall apart really easily. Norco's actually got a solid little plate on here that screws into place. I really like that design. It's a fun way to make it look really clean. Like she was saying, it's got that kind of vintage aesthetic while still being really modern. Yeah, I can't say enough good things about the general design of this bike.
The step through is awesome. That was one of my main things that I looked for in getting a bike. My last bike wasn't, and it was fine, but I love my step through. I don't think I can go back now.
That is something I want to talk about too, is the step through part of this. A lot of the time people will see the step through and think that means it's a women's bike. No, that's a super outdated point of view. These days, the step through is for anybody who wants just easier mobility on and off the bike. That's all it is. Step through bikes, with a few exceptions, are pretty much unisex these days, and that applies to this one. It comes in a few different colorways, and if you want something that's more masculine, like they come in more masculine colorways, but either way, totally unisex bike. These work for everybody, regardless of the fact that they're step through.
Also, the step through makes it a lot easier for grabbing my water bottle as I'm riding. My last bike, I couldn't do that because of the positioning of the bars and the seat and all of that. So this makes it super easy. As I'm riding, I can actually drink, put my water back, and keep going, and I love it.
We just got a letter.
We just got a letter. We just got a letter.
It's probably from my grandmother.
No, I hope it's my Amazon package.
The letter was from my mother, not my grandmother. I was close. But yeah, we were talking about body positions. We might as well move on to the handlebars here. I really like that they have this nice kind of swept back design. So comparing it to the Specialized Roll, the other bike I was talking about, they have a slight sweep back to them, but they're more like a BMX style. They kind of go up and out, then have a crossbar in the middle. These are much more of a traditional sweep back design like those old vintage cruisers. But again, it's much more modern in the design. And I really like how they've set up the cockpit here. And it looks like it's really good for how it fits her. And it feels really good when I ride the bike, but...
Well, I also tried the Crossroads, and I test rode that one first. Got on it, went around, I was okay, and then I got on this bike, and instantly I was like, this is my bike. I'm taking this one, I love it. It just feels, I don't know what it is, but there's just a quality. It feels much more sturdy. Feels like it can really take some heat and really do what needs to be done with this bike while still being really comfortable.
The other bikes, like the Crossroads is a bit more of a older style. It's like a skinnier tire. But the Crossroads and the Roll, both of them, you feel much more like you're on the bike. This one, I think you feel more like in the bike. Like, you know, it's kind of around you. It's much more stable. It's a really nice platform. Well, being that we're talking about other things up here anyways, so we move on to, the gears and the brakes. It's the Shimano Altus 8-speed system. You know, pretty wide range of gears. It's not a super high performance system, but it's really reliable. It's been around for a long time, so it's pretty well engineered. It's been developed really well. Pretty affordable to get replacement parts.
The feeling of them, like, to me, switching gears is very, very smooth. Very easy to tell when I've changed gears because it's so smooth. And the way that the numbers are and how big they are, it's really, really easy to see. And I find I'm able to way more effectively actually use my gears on this bike than I ever have before.
Yeah, the last bike had the combo style Shimano gear shifters and I think a 7-speed, but they're up here and the readout was kind of like harder to see. These have the readout right at the back, so it's really easy to see. And personally, I don't mind a bike that doesn't have the readouts, but I know a lot of people think those readouts for the gears are really nice to have. Including Brianna, and yeah, they're really easy to read on this bike.
Exactly, and the brakes have been great. Like, they haven't given us any problems. They've been super reliable. They've always been very smooth.
Yeah, they're mechanical brakes. They're not hydraulic, but they're really low maintenance. They're pretty powerful. They've been reliable in wet weather. I really like the brakes they chose on here. Again, they're also pretty affordable. I think these ones just use the normal Shimano BO1S pads, so the same generic ones that all the Shimano brakes use. So you can get replacement brake pads for this for like $10 or $15. So that's pretty good too. Tires, these are actually the same as the ones on your old bike, right?
I think they were.
Yeah, I think they're actually the exact same tire, just those were 26-inch, this is 27.5. But these are great. There's barely any wear on them, and we've been riding this bike a fair amount this season. They're really smooth, they got good puncture protection, pretty long lasting. I like these tires. They're Kendas, they're a really good choice.
Oh, and the size has been great. I've noticed a really big difference from the size of my old bike tires to these ones. Just the difference of them being a little bit bigger, I just feel so much easier to pedal and just keep that momentum going with the bigger tire.
Yeah, it's the actual like wheel size as well as the tire, the whole 27.5 instead of the 26. It's like it holds its momentum a little better.
Absolutely.
Although I think that could be partially that and a combination of the much more efficient riding position on this bike, so everything just feels better and more efficient. I guess the last thing to do is the accessories, and that's actually a pretty big part of this. Well, not just this bike, but this whole style of bikes, being able to accessorize it, kit it out the way you want. So what do we want to start with accessory-wise?
It's so hard to start. I can't pick a favorite.
I bet it's this. I bet that's
probably
your favorite.
this one, yes. Do you want to do like the name of it?
Yeah, I forget the actual model name of this, but it's a Thule smartphone holder. This one's great. It's got that rubberized kind of square piece that loops around all four corners of the phone like most phone holders do, but it's also got a really secure clamp mechanism in the middle, and it bolts around your bars. And this is a tank of a phone holder. Really good stability. You've never had any worries about losing the phone or anything. There's no worries about it breaking. She's even crashed a couple times with the phone on there, and everything's been fine.
Yeah.
She was fine too, but yeah, it's a really secure phone holder. So the Thule one, that's something I recommend. Grips. These are the specialized body geometry grips. And the original grips on this bike, they're kind of a BG style. They've got the pad for your ulnar nerve in your palm. But the body geometry ones, these are just so good.
Oh, I used to have my hand kind of cramping up when I would be riding for a while. I have not had that at all with these grips. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, you could leave the originals, but the specialized body geometry grips, those are a really good upgrade for this bike.
We added a bell.
Of course, gotta keep it legal. It's a cute little tiny one. And a light from Lazine. This is one of the 500 lumen ones, so fair amount of power on this thing. It's basically like getting close to car headlight types of power. So I just spun the bike around so we can talk about the rest of the accessories. The bottle cage, you can use any bottle cage on this. Like she said, the big open space on the frame makes it really easy to access any bottle you want, and you can fit any size bottle in there because there's no top tube. So any bottle you want. We like these ones, the Camelback Podium Chills. It's insulated, it's a nice big bottle, it's got this really awesome mechanism up top for getting the water and keeping it sealed so dirt and sweat doesn't get in there. These Camelback bottles, these are awesome. The rack and the bag are one of the more important accessories on here. Because of the shape of the frame, I did have to get extenders for the rack to make it fit nicely, so that's something to keep in mind for fitting a rack on this bike. You might have to get the little extenders to make it reach down all the way to the frame. So this bag is the Axiom Seymour trunk bag. It's really good. It's got these fold-down pockets to the side that act as pannier bags. It's insulated, it's water resistant, it's made out of this ocean weave reclaimed fishnet material, so it's a bit more environmentally friendly than some of the options. We use this for a lot of stuff. It carries cameras, it carries picnics, carries first aid kits, carries everything.
Yeah, we actually use this a lot for going to Shoppers Drug Mart or Staples or doing grocery runs. This is awesome, especially with these side bags that can fold up and just clip really tight. And then when we get there, when we get our stuff, extend and really hold a lot. The bag is actually held on by Velcro to the rack. So when we do our picnics and things, it's super easy to just rip off that Velcro, grab your bag, and lay out your blankets and whatnot. We've actually had picnics where we take full blankets, we have an Instax camera that we put in there, a full picnic for the two of us, and this thing holds up super well. I would have no thoughts of this thing ever falling off. I have fallen off this bike multiple times and the bag has not, so it does really well.
Actually, hold on, I think I can demonstrate. That's how reliable the Seymour trunk bag is. This is not a light bike.
I literally think you would rip the straps before that would come undone. Oh, also, there's a really great loops here for a pump, which is amazing to have, especially because we like to keep our pump and first aid kit with us. Oh, also, are my gloves in there?
Yeah, your gloves are in here. We've got like multi-tools and patch kits in here. I think there's a spare tube in here somewhere. Yeah, it feels like there's a spare tube in the bottom of this one. Feels like we've got a bottle of sunscreen or bug spray there. And nice first aid kit on this side. What's on that side?
We have tensor bandages, masks, hand sanitizers.
Get good gloves.
Tons of stuff. Oh, and my good gloves. So these are specialized fingerless body geometry gloves. I've actually had these for 2 years now. They've held up really well, and I love them because they keep my hands from getting sweaty when I'm riding.
In the main compartment, just quickly show you, I don't know if you can see the silver stuff, but it's got like the insulation in there. Got our mini camera bag, got a few other things in here. Yeah, tons of storage. Love this. So, any last thoughts you want to give them?
I would just say overall, I love this bike. It holds up well. I feel very supported. I feel like this bike, I've fallen multiple times. it's taken its hits and it performs really well and works awesome for our lifestyle.
My final thoughts would be, from a mechanical point of view, very solid bike, very good design, definitely worth getting. Something to think about though is, no matter what I tell you or what she tells you, bikes fit everybody uniquely. So I use this metaphor all the time. You know how your favorite pair of jeans from your favorite brand in your exact size fits perfectly, but if you get that exact same size from a different brand, it might not fit the same? Same thing with bikes. You actually need to test ride to make sure it's the exact one for you, but if you can't test ride, I think this is a good bet if you're just going to order a bike and take it on faith that it's going to work for you. So overall, really solid bike, really user-friendly, really easy to accessorize. This is what you want out of a bike like this.
I agree.